Welcome everybody, it's Debbie O'Neill of Cricut Designs, and I bet you're surprised to see me sitting with a sewing machine at my craft table today. Yes, you know I don't sew. It's the one craft you hardly ever see me do because it's just not my thing. I don't really sew. I have a sewing machine, but it gets no use whatsoever. I think I've used it one time, and that's been a while. So what inspired me and what I'm encouraging you as a non-sewing crafter, if you have a sewing machine or you have a neighbor that you can borrow a sewing machine from, you can jump in and start helping with the pandemic and helping make fabric masks. So that's what I'm talking about today, is what can you use that you may have as a Cricut crafter, you may have in your stash you hadn't even thought about that you could use to help make masks. And I came up with a bunch of shortcuts. Now remember, I don't sew, so please, if you sew and you hear or see me do something, I love a comment, that's great, but don't beat me up about it. I'm doing the best I can. And so far the masks have turned out great. I've made several. Now I do want to give a shout out to Lori Maker. She's my friend and a fellow product expert for Cricut, and Lori has created a SVG file that I use to make my mask. And Lori is graciously offering that for free to everybody, so I've linked that in the description of my tutorial. Now my tutorial today is going to focus on things that I found in my craft room that's Cricut stuff that my fellow Cricut crafters may also have that you can use. And then Lori's tutorial is going to show you actually how to put the mask together. So I have that linked up in the description of the video, of my video, so you can get the file and watch Lori's video to put it together. But I'm going to share with you my best Cricut hacks or tips of things I already had in my craft room that could help me make a few masks. Now the masks don't have to be beautiful, they just have to be sturdy. And one of the things that we need, of course, is some type of fabric. So guess what? We've had mystery boxes that had fabric in it. I've gotten fabric from other bundles of things that I bought from Cricut. I bet you have some in your stash too. The Cricut fabric is absolutely perfect for making the fabric mask because it's 100% cotton. It's a high quality fabric. And so go dig that out. If you have some, you can use that, okay? Now, so fabric was one thing I found that I had in my craft room. Didn't even think about it. I found some of that. I found a lot of it actually. So I've been making quite a few masks. Now once I found the fabric and I have Lori's pattern and I got my sewing machine out, guess what? I needed to remember how to use my sewing machine or even figure it out. All sewing machines have a booklet, or you can order one you can get one online, right? You can download one from online, and it showed me how to thread my machine and how to do my bobbin so I could be able to sew. The masks take just a plain straight stitch. It doesn't take much. Even a beginner sewer can do this like us, okay? So I want to encourage you to at least try it. And the masks that Lori has created and designed fit perfectly. And they have ties on them. The medical community and the first responders are asking to have ties on the mask because it's easier for them to adjust them, and also the elastic, you can't really find elastic anymore. Plus, if after they've been wearing these for hours, that elastic really hurts their ears or their face lines from where the elastic's pulling against their face. So the ties are a really good thing. So then I looked around in my craft room to say, well, all right, if I have fabric, I can make the basic part of the mask, but what am I going to do about these ties? So I looked around and I did a bunch of research, and yes, you can use Grossgrain ribbon that you have from your craft stash. I know a lot of us have ribbon that we haven't used in a long time. The Grossgrain ribbon is the one that has kind of a ribbing on it. The 3/8 inch is a really good size to use to make the ties. So you can cut that in 20-inch lengths, not one end of it, the other end's going to get sewn into your mask. So I found some ribbon I could use, but not enough for as amount of fabric that I had, so I could do that. So then I'm looking around in my craft room again, and I'm thinking, what else do I have as a Cricut crafter that I can use to possibly help do this? So I ended up looking online at people using the bias tape, because everybody kept talking about bias tape. But then I thought, well, can I make my own How can I make my own ties? Well, guess what? I can. But if you look online, people are using some kind of a metal contraption to take fabric strips and turn them into bias tape. I didn't have that. Also, there's some kind of like a quilter's thing that you can buy that helps you make bias tape. I didn't have that either. But you know what I did have? I have a Cricut Easy Press mat. So not only can I use it with my household iron to iron my fabric to get it ready for me to use, but I use it to help me make the bias tape. So I'm going to show you how I did that using strips of the Cricut fabric and a Cricut Easy Press mat and 2 straight pins. That's all it takes, and your iron. All right, so I'm going to show you how you can make your own straps to put on your mask. And then the other thing was, yes, you can cut out, using Lori's file, you can cut out the fabric using your Cricut Maker and your rotary blade and a pink fabric mat. But that was taking a really long time to put stuff on and take it back off and put it on and take it back off. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So what I did was I used some other Cricut material that I had, which is the Cricut craft board. But you could use craft board, you can use poster board, you can use cardstock, but I just cut multiple layers of this material and then glued them together so that then I had nice sturdy templates that I can use with my Cricut rotary blade that I've had in my stash that I haven't used. I think this even came in a mystery box at some point, and I thought, well, it's faster. I'm watching all these videos, these people who sew are using the rotary blades to cut their fabric, and I'm like, huh, I have one, let me try that. So using the self-healing Cricut mat and the rotary blade, I was able to cut out a whole bunch of fabric using the templates that I made with my Cricut. So there's lots of things that you probably already have on hand that you hadn't even thought about, and that's what this video is today, is to encourage you. So I'm going to show you step by step how to find Lori's SVG file, how to upload it and get it ready to put in Design Space. Once it's in Design Space, how do you cut out your templates, and then how do you make the templates to make them sturdy and thick enough to use with your rotary blade. I'm going to give you tips on using the rotary blade, because if you're like me, I've never used it before. It's sharp. There's things you need to know about this. So I'm going to share that with you. I'm also going to show you exactly how I took the fabric strips and turned it into my own bias tape to make my own fabric ties. And then from there, you will be able to jump over to Lori's video, and actually, once you get everything cut out, I've already got a bunch of fabric prepped, all ready to go to make my mask, and I can just watch Lori's video and be able to sew my mask up and have them ready to go. I'm going to encourage you, if you have not been making masks yet and it's something that you think, well, maybe I could, or I have a sewing machine but I don't know how to use it, believe me, jump out there, try it. Let me know if you give it a try, because I really want to encourage everybody to help with this coronavirus pandemic. We're all being told now by the CDC that we need to have masks, fabric masks to wear when we go outside. These are, once you make them, you can wear them, and then you put them in the wash and you dry them in the dryer, and then they're sanitized again, and you can wear them the next time you go out. So if you're going to the grocery store or the doctor's office, or heaven forbid somebody in your family gets sick, you want to make sure that you have some masks on hand. Okay, so I wanted to talk about, where do you find the SVG file for making the fabric mask that I'm going to talk about today. And I want to go through the whole process with you, because some of you are fairly new and you're not quite sure how to download a file and then upload it to Design Space. So we're going to do that real quick. So that is a good tip for everybody. Now, in the description of my tutorial video, you will see a link to Lori Noonan-Maker's Face Mask SVGs for adult and child size. Once you click on that from my site, it's going to take you over to Lori's web page. Lori has generously donated the file, so it doesn't cost you anything. You'll see a PayPal button on here, but that's just because Lori set this up in her shop on her site. But there is a download now button right here, and that's what you want to click. So we're going to click download now. And what that's going to do is it's going to go download onto your computer somewhere. So you want to navigate to where you want to have the item downloaded. So I just put it under SVGs. I have an SVG all file folder, and I created a Lori Maker folder, so I'm going to open that up, and this is where I want to download my file. Okay, so you put it wherever you want, but that's where mine's going to live. And you'll notice that this says Face Mask Adult Child Maker, because we always want to give Lori credit for sharing her file, and then it has a zip extension, ZIP, on the end. That means that all those files that Lori's sharing have been compressed into one folder, and you're not going to be able to use this directly into Design Space. I'm going to show you how to extract that. So we're going to click Save, and now we've got it. You want to go back over to where you saved the file folder. Okay, I'm going over to my Lori's file. Okay, so now I'm in my file folder again once I've downloaded it. Then you want to go into the file. This is the Lori Maker folder I set up, and then this is the file that we just saved. You're going to notice that now it has a little zipper on the front of it. To get into the files, you're going to have to do what they call unzipping the folder. So in Windows, you just right-click with your mouse and it pops up a dialog box, and then you're going to hit Extract All. If you're using a different operating system, then you may need to just Google how do you extract a file folder operating system you're using. So once I say extracted, what it's done is that it has now just opened up the file folder for me. So now you're going to see that there are two SVG files in here. One of them is for the adult mask and one of them is for the child mask. So we're going to go into Design Space, and now in your left-hand panel over here, you're going to see where it says Upload here on the left menu. So we're going to click on that. And then we're going to see this upload image pop up, and we're going to say upload image. We're going to do browse, and then you'll navigate over to where you saved your file folder. And here we have the two files. So I want to go ahead and upload the adult file. So I'm going to double click on that. It's going to come into Design Space here in the upload screen for me, and you'll see it's right here, and it's got an image name. Leave that the same. You want to make sure you've given Lori credit for the file, and then I just want to put fabric mask in my tags because that may be something I would look for later, and I'm going to hit Save. Now when I save it, it's now in my recently uploaded images, so I want to click this, and you get that green box around it. And now we're going to put it in our Design Space screen. So we're going to do Insert Images, and here is the file. So that's how you're going to upload these SVG files to make the fabric mask. All right. So Lori has done a great job here by going ahead and putting some writing on this so you know what part is for what thing. So this blue one, it says adult medium large face mask. This is part A. For part A, you're going to cut two of this shape on the outer fabric that you want to use, and then you're going to cut two of the same shape out for what you want to make for the lining for your mask. And then this other shape, the one that's orange, is the adult medium large still, but this is part B. So this one you're just going to cut two of this shape, and I'll show you how I do that using the rotary blade and using this to make templates for me to use with the rotary cutting blade. Now at this point, what you want to do is, Lori's even got a note on here for you. It says turn text layer off. How do you do that, right? I know you're thinking it. So over here in the layers panel, you're going to see here's our cut file. So there's the blue cut file, there's the orange cut file, and then there's a third cut file up here that looks like it has words on it. You just want to click the little eye on that, and that turns the words off, so Design Space won't try to cut out each of those letters. We don't want it to do that. All we need is this shape to create our templates. So once we've done that, then we're going to hit Make It, and you're going to come up in your screen for your matte screen. Now, to make the templates that I'm going to show you that I'm using, you need to have 4 layers. So up here in your project copy, I'm going to change this to 4. And click Apply. All right, so now you're going to see that it's added these to your screen. So I have 2 of these, so there's 4 total. This is that smaller shape. Scroll down, and now you're going to see 4 of the blue ones. Those are the bigger shapes. However, you can get 2 on a mat so that I can save material and to keep having to switch mats out. I'm going to show you another tip for this. So here's the first blue mat. I want to go to the second blue mat, okay, and I'm going to click that image. And up here in the left-hand corner, there's 3 little dots. So I want to take those 3 little dots, and now it says move object or hide selected. I want to move the object, and then it's going to ask me where do I want to move it to. So I'm going to pick, this is the current one that I'm going to take it off of this mat and put it somewhere else. So I want to put it here on this one. I'm going to say confirm. And then I can click on this. We're back at that first mat, and now I have 2 of those shapes on that same mat. So this is a way to do this when you have files that come in that are like that. So that's perfect. And then we're going to click on this one. We're going to go down to the last 2 here. I want to click on the bottom one. I'm just going to repeat that same thing and say move object. It's going to come up and ask me where do I want it. So now I've moved that shape up, and now I'm going to go to the next one, and I want to move this shape. Okay, so what we're going to end up with, I'll show you here in a minute. We're going to say move object, and I'm going to click this one and say confirm. Okay, so now I have the 4 images. So I've got 2 on one piece and 2 on the other. Okay, so now I only need 4 pieces of whatever I want to make my template out of. Okay, instead of having to have 6 pieces, I now can only have 4. All right, so that's how you can move those around. Once you've got them moved the way you want, then of course you're going to hit continue and go over to design space, and you're going to select your material. Now I am making this as a template to use the rotary blade. So my preferred material is craft board. Cricut sells it. It comes in a variety pack. I'll show you that here in a minute. So I make mine out of craft board and just using a glue stick to make a thick enough template that I can use the rotary blade to cut out my fabric. You may not have any craft board at home, but you may have poster board, you may have cardstock. You may need to add a couple of more layers. It depends upon what kind of cardstock you're using. I wanted to pick materials that you could cut with either the Cricut Explore or the Cricut Maker using the regular fine tip blade that comes in your machine. You don't have to have an extra blade. And then I'm going to go over and I'm going to cut these out. So this is the material that I'm cutting my template out of, and it's the Cricut craft board, and it comes in, this is a sampler pack. They also have it in black and the craft and the white, I believe. Anyway, but this is what I used, and I use this because it's a little bit heavier. Once you get those cut out, and I like to just flip the mat over and peel them off just like this. Okay. Then once you have all 4 of them, you're going to just stack them up, making sure that all the edges match. So once you've got it like this, then you're going to glue them together. Just use a glue stick or a tape runner or something, and you're going to just put glue on one. This is easy. You can even get the kids to help you do this if you've got kids at home. You just want to put glue on it, and then you're going to put a layer down. Make sure you're matching up the sides. Then what I do, you can either just press it with your hand really good, but I also have a Cricut brayer. I like to use the brayer when I'm doing something like this because I want all of these layers to stick really well. So I'm going to do that same thing for all 4 of the layers. And then what you're going to end up with is you will end up with these nice thick templates. All right, and then I just used a Sharpie marker, and I took Lori's markings that she had on there, and I wrote which was for which thing, so I didn't get confused. So I have a set for the adult, and then there's also one if you need to make children's masks. Once you have your templates made, then you can move on with getting ready to do your fabric. So let me show you that. The other tip that I have for you is that I am using the Cricut fabric. I'm using Cricut fabric. You probably have this in your stash already, or you can order some at Cricut.com. It is 100% cotton fabric. It's this one that I'm using is from Riley Blake. It's a nice high quality quilter's fabric, which is what is recommended by the CDC to use because it gives you very good protection when you use multiple layers. So we'll be making a 2-layer mask with a filter pocket. You can use any 100% cotton fabric. You just want one that's got a tight weave. You can tell that by lifting the fabric up. If you can't see through it, that means it's got a good weave to it, and you can use that. If you want to get it out of your packet, you'll need 3 colors, so to speak, because you want to have one is going to be your outside fabric, one will be your inside layer fabric, and one's going to be your pocket. So depending upon what fabric you're using, you want to have 3 layers. The reason why that is important is because when we're looking at our mask, this is the outer layer, okay, the one that's going to be facing out that people will see. On the inside of your mask, you're going to have a liner fabric here, okay? You're not going to see a lot of this because you're going to have a filter pocket that we're going to be able to slip in a filter to be able to use it. Now these masks will cover your nose and down past your chin and around the sides of your face, and I have ties on them, okay? That is what is preferred by the first responders and healthcare professionals, and so that is how I am making the mask, and that's how Lori shows you too. And I'm going to give you some tips on using other Cricut things you already have to help you make some of your own fabric strap. Once you pick out your fabric, you have your fabric ready, you can use your Cricut Easy Press mat to iron your fabric. Maybe you don't have an ironing board for whatever reason. Some people don't these days. You can use your Cricut Easy Press mat to iron your fabric flat. You will want to have washed your fabric first, and then you're going to iron it just using your household iron. So once you get those ironed, then what we want to do, cut them out. Now, here are our templates that we made. I need to make a child's mask, and so I'm just going to use the child template to identify which one of these I'm going to use for my outside piece, what I'm going to use for my liner. So I'm going to use this for my outside and this for my liner, and this is going to be the pocket. So I've determined which 3 things I'm going to use for that. And then I'm going to use a rotary cutter. So the rotary cutter, this is the Cricut rotary cutter. There's other brands of rotary cutters, but you may have also gotten one of these in a mystery box in the past, or maybe you bought one for some reason thinking you might need it. Use a rotary cutter for lots of different things, but they're great for cutting fabric, particularly when you have a nice template like this that we just made. Okay. So with the rotary cutters, there's a couple of things that you need to know. It has a safety piece right here on the back of it that is a plastic shield, so to speak. So when this button is pushed forward, that means that that plastic shield is on here. Blade is not going to roll. Like I can do this and I'm not cutting my fabric. And you're going to pull it down, and now it has popped up your lock. Okay, so now the blade can be used, and the backing, the little plastic piece on the back has now slid into the handle here. Now I'm explaining this because I am not a sewer. I have not used rotary cutters very much in my life, and I want to make sure you guys are safe. When this is in this position down towards you, towards the handle, that means this blade is live and can roll and cut, and believe me, it is super sharp. I've got nicks on my fingers to prove it. Once I've got it in position to be able to cut, that's great. But when I want to take this off, I just click this button here, and it slides back up into position that it's closed, and then you'll see the plastic pieces here. So now I can't cut. So I just wanted to go over that with you. A lot of people haven't used the rotary cutters before, and if you've got one or you want to get one because it's easier to cut the fabric this way, I wanted you to know how to use it. So once you have your fabric prepared and ironed, then you're going to do your cutting. So using the templates that we just created, you can get your first piece of fabric out that you're going to use for your outer lining rather. So, and your rotary blade, and you want to use a self-healing craft mat. When you're cutting with a rotary cutter, it cuts deep, it's sharp, you want to be super careful with it, and you need a surface that as you're cutting into it, it's not going to scar or mar your under surface. So one thing to remember, I have turned both layers of my, this is what the fabric looks like, okay, it's a little hard, it's cute, and what I've done here is that I just flipped this over. You don't have to do that. This, I had already flipped it, so I'm just going to leave it that way. But what I do need to think about is that when I am getting ready to cut my fabric, I need to look if it has a pattern on it. If it has a pattern on it, you want to make sure that you've got your pattern turned the correct way for how you're going to cut it out. So let me show you. So here's a mask I already made. This is the front of the mask. This is the inside lining, this piece here, and then this is the pocket piece. Okay. So there's 3 layers to this mask. When you're cutting your first outer layer, you're going to cut 2. So I've got my fabric folded over to cut the 2 pieces. See how they're going to flip and go directionally across. So you want to make sure that when you cut it out, that you're making sure that the pattern is going to go in the right direction. So I want to make sure that I've got 2 pieces of fabric folded over, so I'm going to cut 2 at a time. I'm going to cut the 2 outer pieces out of this fabric. So I'm going to take my rotary blade, I'm going to pull this down, and I'm just going to go along the edge of my template that I created. And it's going to be cutting through those layers. Corners can be a little trickier. Okay, then I'm going to turn this. I'm going to cut along this edge. And the blade is doing all the work. I'm not having to put too much pressure. The blade's doing all the work for me. Okay, just like that. So that's how using the template is helpful, because now I've got both pieces cut out at the same time, and it was fairly quick. So this is going to be my outer pieces. Let me flip these around so we can see that the hearts will go in the right direction when these 2 get sewn together. Now it tells me I need to cut 2 lining, so I've already done that, doing the exact same thing. So this is going to be my 2 pieces of lining, and then I need to cut the pocket. These are the Cricut fabric scissors. They are a nice pair of fabric scissors, and then that way I only cut fabric with this, so they're not dull. If you cut paper or other things with your scissors, it doesn't do very good when you go to cut fabric. If you don't have a pair of those and you need them, they're on sale at Cricut. But it is on a rotating table. Oh my gosh, that's pretty cool, and it wasn't expensive. I got it on Amazon. I'll link it up in the description of the video. But let me show you how this is going to help you. If you're going to be cutting a lot of mask, you may decide that you want to pick one of these up. So I'm going to put my material down here. I can turn this now any direction that I need to go ahead and start my mask. So I'm going to open up my blade is locked. I'm going to open it up. So now my blade is ready. Okay, now I can just turn the board instead of trying to lift up the fabric, and it makes it so much easier so that I know that I got a perfectly matched cut. So now I've got this, and it was much quicker, and I didn't have to keep moving my fabric around on doing it on just my craft mat. However, if you only have the craft mat, it's perfect, but I just wanted to show you this as an extra thing if you're doing a lot of masks. So now we have our 3 pieces using our Cricut fabric. So you've got, this is the outer, this is the liner, and this is going to be the pocket that's going to go on the inside. Okay, so those are just some tips using some Cricut supplies you may already have on hand that I think will help you. And then the last thing I want to show you is talking about the tie backs to make these. You've got a few options. So let me show you that. Okay, so when you are making your fabric mask, you have to think about what you're going to use for the tie backs, okay? So some people are using elastic, which is fine. You can use elastic. However, I'm making these for my family and friends and also for healthcare workers and first responders. Those people have requested that we make that they tie on instead of having elastic, because that elastic really wears on their ears. What can you use for your tie backs? This is a couple of ideas. One, if you have any bias tape, you can make your own fabric tie backs using bias tape. But bias tape is a piece of fabric that has been already folded over to create nice edges on it, and then you can use this and fold it over and sew a line down the middle of this to create your fabric ties. But you need to have this. Most of us don't have it, and they're sold out everywhere. So I started looking around to figure out, well, how can I make my own tie backs, because my first responders and healthcare workers are specifically asking for tie back. Guess what? Cricut to the rescue again. Let me show you what I found out that I can do, and you can too. I have a Cricut Easy Press mat. I have two pins, two straight pins. I have a ruler. I have a pin, and then I have some fabric strips that I cut out using one of the Cricut acrylic rulers, and I cut this out at about 1.5 inches wide, and it's about 20 inches long, because the healthcare workers suggested that we do 20 inches for the tie backs to make sure that they can go around most people's heads. So you need 4 strips to make the tie back. So how can I make my own bias tape? Let me show you. It was so easy. All right, so the first thing I want you to do is get a ruler out, and I'm using my Cricut Easy Press mat. I don't care if it's going to have pin marks on it. It does not matter to me. And I'm going to make 2 1-inch marks. So I've got a pin mark here and a pin mark here. So I've got one there, and then I've got a pin mark here and a pin mark here. All right, now I'm going to take those 2 straight pins. This is going to help me make my bias tape, guys. So I'm going to put the pin in just above where the dot is, and then pull the pin through the dot, and then back down through the dot on the bottom, and then back up. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm creating a little runner here for me to put my fabric through to make my own bias tape. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to go above the dot, into the fabric, then back up out of the fabric. These are just plain old straight pins, nothing special about them. They are long with the head on them so we can see them easy. Right up on that. Okay, so now I've got this. So you're going in, out, in, and out. Okay, so I've got this on here. Now what I need to do is I'm going to take my strip of fabric that I cut, and I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to iron this down to get it started on the edge. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this in. So basically I'm starting to create my own bias tape here. However, on a piece that is this long, it's really hard to get this to stay down, and it takes a while to go through the whole strip. So I found a tutorial video where somebody was showing us how to use this fancy quilter's board that already has these marks and stuff on it for you to make your own bias tape. I was like, I don't have one of those. I'm not going to buy one of those. This is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime project for me, hopefully. And so I thought, what do I have in my house that I can use? Guess what? I have an Easy Press mat, and I have some straight pins, and I can make my own bias tape maker. So I'm going to start, and you're just going to lift it up and pull the fabric in like this. Okay, and as you pull it, it's going to start folding this over for you. Okay, and you just kind of guide it with your fingers. I'm going to get it all the way over here to the other pin. And then as you can see, it makes it much easier to iron this flat, just like that. And I'm going to do this all the way down. I'm going to do this for all 4 of the strips. Okay, and this is creating your own fabric bias tape using a couple of things. Your Cricut Easy Press mat you already have probably, and you can use a household iron or even an Easy Press would help you do this. Okay, we're just making our own fabric bias tape. And if your pin starts to slip out, don't worry about it. Just poke it right back in. I got a little zealous with the iron there, and I'm just going to pull this through. And see, as I'm pulling it through, it's helping fold this over and keep it over till I can press it. Believe me, I tried a bunch of different ways. There's some kind of a metal gadget you can do. Now remember, I'm not a sewer. I don't have all this stuff in my house. I am just a Cricut crafter that wanted to jump in and help make masks. So I'm trying to show you the things that I use that are my Cricut tools that have helped me be able to make a whole bunch of masks to help during this pandemic. Okay, so I can just pull this over and iron this flat like so. So basically I have now made my own bias tape using fabric in my Cricut Easy Press mat. Now I can just easily fold this over and feed it through my sewing machine and be able to make tie backs using this. So it's super easy. I'll show you here in a minute how they looked. Okay, so here's the piece of bias tape that we made, the fabric bias tape that we made cutting some Cricut fabric. And now that we have created our own homemade bias tape, all you're going to do is fold it over like so. So there's the seam in the back. I'm just folding it over. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to put it here underneath my pressure foot of my sewing machine. Make sure you put your lever down. And then I just like to kind of push it with my fingers like this and kind of get it in position. And then I'm going to start. I like to kind of guide it out the back. I'm not going fast. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight seam, but you do want to make sure that you are, as you're pulling it through, you're keeping it folded over while it's sewing the pieces together. Once I get to the end, then I'm going to go in reverse. Everybody's sewing machine has a different spot where it sews it backwards, so you need to look at your machine. I'm going to lift this up and pull this out, take my scissors and cut the end off here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, this is where we double stitch the end, and then this is the open end. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just cut that off, the little threads. This is the end that I'm going to put into my mask when I sew my mask together. When you watch Lori's part of the tutorial that shows you how to do that. Okay, so now I have created my strip. On the other end where I did the tacking, I'm going to just tie this into a knot, and I just pull it down with my fingers, and I just push it, pull it really tight, and now that's going to keep that end from fraying and hold this together. And now I have my tie, and you'll make 4 of these because you need 4 to do your mask. Easy peasy, not too hard, and if I can do it, anybody can make their own fabric ties. I hope you found the tutorial helpful, and I hope that it has encouraged you to jump out there and maybe blow the dust off of a sewing machine, or heaven forbid, get it out of the box, right? I know some of you have issues with that, but we get past it, right? Anyway, so if you have a sewing machine, or maybe you can post in your neighborhood group and somebody says, yeah, I have a sewing machine you can borrow or whatever, you have some fabric, or maybe you can just ask in the neighborhood group, does anybody have any fabric? I want to give it a try. It does need to be 100% cotton fabric to make the mask, so that they comply with CDC guidelines, so that they will be the best protection for your family. Let me know if you make any masks. I'm dying to find out. Be sure and come join me in the Let's Learn Cricut Design Space Facebook group. Post pictures of your mask. I'm encouraging everybody to do that. I want to see them. I want to see what you're making. We're all in this together. Together we can overcome this. Together we can keep moving forward. And I hope you guys have an awesome week. And be good to yourself, be good to your families, and be good to the world.